gaming stocks go, I guess I have a personal bias. I would say not a personal bias. I think it's more logical, but again, that could be a bias on myself. Is that gaming stocks rely very heavily on different sectors to do well before they can generate the profits that they need to. So for instance, say that Xbox sells and PlayStation 4 sells, or whatever the new console system that's coming out drops significantly. If it drops, say Xbox sells or PlayStation 4 sales drop, we'll say 30%. That's still that, because that gaming system sales drop 30%, potentially gaming stocks or a certain stock could drop 30% as well, or if not more, because people obviously just because of the sheer numbers, less people using gaming systems, less people buying the game. Obviously now, since we've become more accustomed to using our phone and playing game on our phone, it does kind of limit some risk. But also, like, what if there's a trend that catches that people don't play games on their phone anymore? For instance, I remember back in 2008, 2009, 2010, when Farmville was like huge, but now like no one plays games directly through the social media platforms. They used to have it set up to where you could like play like little mini games on specifically Facebook, and I'm sure that they still do have that capability, but I don't see many people doing that. And I guess without seeing statistics, I wouldn't really be able to make a big generalization, but personal experience says that not very many people are playing games directly through Facebook anymore. Also, it relies on technology. Gaming consoles rely on technology continuing to grow as well. So for instance, like semiconductors, CPUs, GPUs, hard drives, RAM, all that kind of stuff. It requires that stuff to also increase so that they can come out with a better gaming system. For instance, if they release an Xbox 1.2 or whatever, and it literally had no different hardware, or maybe just an increasingly, like a little bit increasingly better hardware, would people be willing to trade in their Xbox One to go buy the Xbox 1.2 with like literally minor upgrades in it? For instance, maybe they just took a 500 gigabyte hard drive and swapped it out with a 1 terabyte hard disk drive, and that was it. People would not, I don't think that people would go buy a better gaming system. I think that there's some factors that go into gaming that people don't take into, because we don't realize that it has to be played on a device, whether that be a phone. If a phone technology never increases, then the gaming capability on the phone will never increase as well. So I think that that is something to consider when looking at gaming stocks, is that just because it looks good on paper, you got to factor in how are these other companies doing as well. How are like Intel, how is Microsoft doing as a whole? How is Sony doing as a whole? How is Nintendo doing? Look at the companies that are developing the hardware that goes in the computer as well. And then there also relies heavily on companies being able to come out with new systems. It requires the engineers to create a better system, whether that's a better graphic user interface, more stuff as far as what the consumer can do with the system, the interaction between the consumer and the system, and then also the hardware components that go into that as well. The hardware is not getting better. If the technology or the graphic user interface, the relationship between the consumer and the console is not getting better, then the sales possibly will start to decrease. And I think maybe there'll be a shift in the trend that people go from not gaming on consoles and computers to maybe more of like a phone type of game or something like that. But even then, we've had our phones for quite a while, so we'll see where that goes. I think that we might be moving into another era as well. That wraps up the little rant on my bias, my opinion on buying gaming stocks. I actually did do a value analysis on Activision Blizzard, and feel free to check that out up in the corner. Feel free to let me know your thoughts on that one in the comments on that video. I would appreciate it. But it's been real, guys.